Hey guys, welcome back to the Elevate HD podcast. This is episode 25. I am your host, Holly Davidge, and today we are joined by the lovely Kerry Bullock. Now, Kerry is a posing coach and she has just founded Meraki, which is all things hair, makeup, photo shoot hair, photo shoot makeup, stage makeup, everything, and the posing as well for stage. And I thought it would be a really good idea to get her on the podcast because generally we speak about, peak weeks and show days and everything like that, but we haven't really gone into the intricacies of, everything you need to step on stage that's not just the physique side of things. Like obviously as bikini girls, we need to make sure we have the whole package in terms of hair and makeup and skin tone, and everything has to be on point. So I thought it would be a really good idea to bring Kerry on. So Kerry, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thanks for having
Kerry,
me.
no problem. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, how did you get into competing and where are you at in terms of your competing journey now?
Yeah, so I actually only got into it, I think it was July 2021. It's something I've been like obsessed with and fascinated with for a really long time, but it's always been like the whole, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I'm good enough. And then I think like where I was in a career for a long time and then I decided to make a change and change my career. And I think it was that made me think, do you know what? I can kind of do anything if I actually want to. So I think I just put on my Instagram story, like asking people about coaches, like, has anyone got anybody like they could recommend? And that's when like I had a message from Brad saying me. So then that's when I like joined. And originally we were only going to do a photo shoot. And I just come in like really quickly. And then I was kind of a bit like, when is the last like show of the season? So that's when we done it. And totally and utterly like completely fell in love with like every part of it really. So I done my first season then. And then I had like 5 months off and then went straight back into another prep. So prepped and competed last year in quite a few different federations. And I am now taking a big long like off season and in hope to compete like late next year. So
Yeah, and how have you done in your show so far in the first 2 seasons?
yeah, quite good. I in my very first show I done the PCA first timers and come first. And then I done like a little FMC show and then got the overall. And then the last season was kind of like just about like finding where I sort of wanted to be or where I sort of kind of fit. I kind of always had in the back of my mind where I thought I wanted to be, but again, never thought I'd be good enough. But yeah, I done Two Bros, FMC, NFM. I decided against the PCA because that wasn't sort of where I wanted to go, and it didn't really kind of fit in actually. Turned pro in the NFM show. That was sort of like a secret kind of show to start
Yeah, because
with.
you came up against me and I was like, what are you doing here? And she beat me.
Yeah, so I had in mind like my first show was going to be the week after, but then we was a
Hey,
bit like,
weren't you doing like a mock peak week that didn't turn out to be a mock peak week? Sly.
secret. But yeah, just happened to do quite well in that one, and yeah, turned pro, and then done the Royal Racestrick and the Arnolds as well. So, and that's where I kind of like was a bit like, yeah, I think this is definitely where I want to go. So that is the direction that I'm hoping to go down now.
So you're gonna just pursue 2 row/IFBB in
Yeah,
the future?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because you've had that's kind of the same as me. You've kind of had like experimental seasons, and I think
yeah,
they're a brilliant way to kind of figure out where you fit, what you align with, what posing you like, what suits you before you
yeah.
kind of go down that route. I still don't know if I've committed yet. I've done so many. I've done
It's
three
so
seasons where
hard.
it is hard, and especially because I do like different federations for different things as
Yeah.
well. Like obviously when you compete with two bros slash NPC, is obviously like the highest level, so it is
Mhm.
cool to have that experience to be the highest level. But then you can't beat like a PCA show day or an NFM
Yeah.
show day where it's just fun.
Yeah.
So it just depends on kind of what you want out of competing. I always say this, like, not everyone wants to get a pro card, and there should be lots of different federations for people to
Yeah.
compete in, depending on what they want out of it. Do they just
Yeah.
want a good show day experience? Do they want to compete with their friends? Do they want to turn pro in a smaller fed and do that? Or, compete in America with NFM? Like, there are loads of different options, really.
Don't feel like too much pressure to completely like stick to one thing. Like in my mind, yeah, I would love a pro card, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
There's other options. Like as long
Yeah.
as I can still compete, at the end of the day, I'm not that worried
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, I'm the
So
same. I'm always thinking because I feel like I've spoken to this with Jazz about this, is that it seems like you have to want a pro card to be kind of taken seriously in competing. And obviously, if anyone was offered one, no one's going to turn it down. You're not going to be like, nah, I don't want it. But there's so many other things that you get from competing that if you focus purely on the pro card, then you might miss out on the other things that competing brings and all the other good stuff you can experience.
yeah,
So I think
I
it
don't
is
think
like,
people realise what having a pro card actually involves as well.
yeah, yeah.
Like the
And I
other side
think,
of it, what you can and can't do.
yeah, and a lot of the pros feel so much pressure. If they turn pro and then they don't end up doing well as a pro, that's a
Yeah,
lot of pressure. They feel like maybe I shouldn't have earned it. Maybe I shouldn't have been awarded it because I
yeah,
obviously don't deserve it. And as you said, like, there's a lot of stipulations and rules and regulations regarding on how you should act as a pro, which
yeah,
can be a lot of pressure as well.
yeah. So I'm
Because
kind of
there are
like,
certain
well,
coach.
we'll just see.
Yeah, 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 and it'd be obviously aim for it, and you're doing everything every day to get you to that point. So
Mm,
if it happens, it happens. But you're doing there's nothing you're not doing, So
fine.
yeah, no, it's
We only
cool.
try.
So yeah, we all try. I'll try as best I can. I don't know if I'll get there, but we'll see. Um, so posing. So
Hmm.
you have recently kind of announced that you are a posing coach and you're taking on clients. Um, so in terms of posing, when someone comes to you, like what are the biggest mistakes you kind of see in people's posing routines?
That they're all just doing the same thing. Like posing should be like so individual and like it should be about your personality and also like what you enjoy. Like I have people come to me that have been like shown something and they don't even actually enjoy doing it or feel comfortable doing it. So it's about like trying loads of different ways. Like there's not just one way to do a pose. And also like that one way might not suit your physique either. Um, so yeah, and it's like just about like the little touches, I feel, like even from like how you hold your hand and just like where your
It's the
feet
pointy fingers.
are.
They need to go.
Yeah, or even like holding your head right. Like
Yeah.
it's so like particular. I think that's what I love about it because I'm a bit
Hmm.
OCD
Yeah.
um about things. So yeah, I think a lot of like people are like being taught the same things and they need to be sort of like widen their sort of ideas and things really.
Mm. I think a common thing I see is that like you see a certain trend on Instagram and then you feel like you
Yeah.
have to do it. Like you see a lot of the Olympians or the pros or just anyone you kind of see that you follow doing a certain trend and then you feel like you need to do it, but it might not suit
Yeah.
you and it might not be comfortable. Like I know there was a trend, like I don't know whether it's still around, but last year, when people turn from the front to the back and they have their hands kind of around them. Do you get me? Like kind of swoop around them. And I tried it and it just looked ridiculous. And I was like, but everyone's doing it. I feel like I should do it. But like that's not marked. I think people have to understand that all that's marked are the poses. But obviously you want to make it look flowy in your overall transitions, but you don't get extra marks for adding in extra
Like
frills. That's more
people,
for, the show.
yeah, people really overcomplicate it, I find. Like
Yeah.
I personally feel like minimum is better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think you should nail the simple one, and then
Yeah.
if once that's absolutely perfect, you
Yeah.
can add in a little bit. So obviously you want to show off your personality, but then you don't want to go overboard. Like I think as well, like if you look at the wellness class, they seem to be a lot more kind of flamboyant,
Yeah.
um, which is fine because that's the kind of class and that's the identity they choose. But for bikini, you really should keep it simple and
Yeah.
have little
These
bits of flair that show you off. But
Yeah, softer, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And like all the, like the bum swiping,
Oh,
both, as they transition, but when people set up the back pose and they like check if their glutes are still there before they go into the back pose.
so there's a new rule in like NPC IFBB actually that they do not want to see you stroking.
Yeah.
So that needs to go.
Yeah. Well, it just like sexualizes it, and that's not what
Yeah.
it's about.
One thing I really don't like about posing, like some posing, is like you're not up there to be sexy.
Yeah.
You're up
Hmm.
there to show off your physique in the best way possible. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I find in like the diva category. I love the diva category, but I'm
Yeah.
quite like a cute, sassy poser. I'm not a sexy poser, but I think some people can be sultry without being sexy. Like Jasmine's routine is very sultry, but it's
Yeah.
not sexualized. But then you see other people who proper go for it, and it's almost a bit uncomfortable because you're
Yeah.
like, I don't feel good watching this. It's a bit, I feel like a bit of a voyeur, like watching it on them. So it's important to kind of find a nice happy medium. Whereas I'm not sultry at all. I'm just like cute
Yeah.
and kind of energetic.
I'm
But
not
yeah,
in.
it is difficult. Yeah.
No. I couldn't do
Yeah.
these. Like I absolutely like love watching it and I admire it, but I just look so silly.
Yeah, it is hard. Like it took me a while to kind of get into, but I kind of tried it in my second season just for the crack. But then when I was getting people reply to my story and say, "Well, it actually really suits you," and I was surprised, be like, "But I'm not sassy or like diva at all," so I'm confused. But no, I do love it. It is nice to kind of bring out an alter ego and be like a Sasha Fierce on stage.
Yeah.
But then it is finding that balance. You want to have enough sassiness, but not too much.
Yeah.
Like my feedback from NFM that I wasn't sassy enough, which I beg to differ. But anyway, but then you don't want to be overboard where it's just like too much and it's almost like overwhelming to the
Yeah.
watcher, because you want
Yeah.
to still showcase your physique in the same way. So you need to kind of work on making sure that your physique looks on point and you have all the shapes and the ratios there, but also
Yeah.
adding in some flair and some movement.
Mm.
And the thing is, you have to move so much with it. You're not like just static doing mandatory poses, and there are no mandatory poses. So it
Yeah.
is very much fluid, keep moving like you're on like a catwalk kind of thing, um, which is difficult.
I think one of the biggest thing is people underestimate the importance of posing.
Yes, yes.
And like as as soon as you think you want to compete, start.
Hmm.
Like start with a posing coach because it takes a long time.
Yeah.
And like you're always learning because your physique's always changing as well. So what looked good like last year in that season might not look so good in your next season. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's so
And also, as you
important.
get leaner, like the shape of your body changes. So you might do it one way at the start of your prep, but you might need to tweak it as
Yeah.
your body and your ratios change towards the end.
I had to change. So one of my posing clients, literally from show to show, we had to change her posing up a little bit because she'd changed like so much, and it just
Hmm.
didn't look as good. So yeah, you've got to
Yeah.
showcase your physique as best as you can.
Yeah. And this is why, like, I think some people just get like one posing lesson and think that's it. And then they're off on their way and then they
Yeah,
practice that the rest of the prep. But you
uh,
need a constant set of eyes to show you, this needs to be tweaked, or, you
yeah,
need to fix this, or this is a bad habit. I think some people get kind of lazy with their posing, especially on prep when you're knackered and you're
yeah,
posing every day and you just kind of hold the poses, but not properly. But you need to feel that they're hard because you need
yeah,
to be accentuating every single bit of you. It shouldn't be easy.
yeah. Practice in front of the mirror and then take it away as well because you haven't got a
Yeah.
mirror in front of you on stage. So
I find that so hard to get rid of the mirror. What I end up doing is like just filming myself and then going back to watch to make sure it was
yeah,
okay. But like I really struggle to pose like a mirror because I just want to check that everything's all right.
it's then just about the feeling rather than what you look like.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Just giving
yeah.
yourself little cues and stuff to kind of
Mhm.
remind yourself, even with like foot
Yeah.
placement and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So how often would you recommend someone pose? Like say they're a first timer and they're thinking about competing, this year or next year. How often would you say they should pose?
So I would say like a lesson, like ideally like once or twice a month.
Hmm.
And then as you get closer to your competition, I would like decrease that down into like once a week lesson.
Hmm.
But posing as much as you can on your own. Like I'm not saying do it like every day, like when you're that far out, but you want to be doing it a couple of times a week, and then when you are nearing like your competition, it needs to be every day.
Yeah.
As much as you don't want to, like you say, even if it's just 2 rounds going round your like quarter turns and then practicing your eye walk.
Yeah. I think I've heard Marnie talk about this before where she kind of like programs her posing like she does her training. Like she'll say on this day only practice this bit or on this day
Yeah.
only practice this bit. Do you think there's merit in that or would you just say just do the full
Yeah, I
thing?
think especially when you are deep in prep as well, I think breaking it up is definitely going to make it a little bit easier for sure. Like on this day, I'll practice my
Mm.
eye walk. On this day, I'll practice my quarter turns. On this day, I'll practice like it's little things as well, like standing at the side of the stage. You
Yeah.
need to practice that. And also you need to
Walking.
practice, yeah, walking and also,
You need to practice walking.
oh yeah, you see some good ones. You also need to practice like switching up in the line as well, like when they're changing
Yeah.
you from place to place. It's little things like that that need to not be missed.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
you're up there, you're in front of the judges, you're being judged all the time. As soon as your foot steps on that stage, them judges are judging you.
Yeah.
So
Also, I always recommend like my clients who are kind of first timers pose in the gym so that you get used to
yeah,
people looking at you because they're going to look and you know you need to be used to people watching. And also like go to posing seminars where there's groups because
yeah,
usually what they do is they do like a mock show day where they do comparisons, they do eye walks, they do lineups, and it gives you a feel for how the actual stage running is going to go. Because if you're just posing in your bedroom all the way up until show day, you're going to get on stage and be like, oh my God, what do I
yeah.
do? So it
Go
is
and
quite
watch
useful.
that as well.
Yeah, watch a show so you know what's going on and like
Yeah.
how they change paces, what order they do things in. You'll know, okay, comparisons are first, I walk after. I know I have to walk from this side of the stage or that side of the stage. Um, just to make sure there's as little unknowns as possible because I think that's the
Yeah.
worst thing and that's what brings the nerves when you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah. It's even like little things like try and do your research on what side of the stage you're coming on from as
Yeah,
well. Obviously, practice from both sides, but if you've got a bit of a better idea of what side you're coming on from, just little things like that are going to, like you say, help with your nerves and things like that because you're going to be nervous.
I remember having such a like panic with Phoebe Hagen, who was doing my posing last year for Two Bros, is that you come on from like stage right
Yeah.
and you go right into the middle and you just kind of do a diagonal into the middle. But I was like, what if I keep walking and I don't stop? Like I was worried that I wouldn't be able to stop in time for the X. I was like, what if I just keep going and I don't stop in the right place? Or like we're coming from the other side, my pose is the other way around. So I have to come in and do a twirl. And I was
Yeah.
freaking out, be like, what if they change the side and then I have to do a twirl? I don't know if I'll be able to do it. Like, you
And that's
overthink so
like
much.
is practicing them things
Yeah.
beforehand so you know what you're doing just in case something like that happens.
Yeah. And also, like, especially for Two Bros, like, if you do get into an overall, like, you need to practice walking to the back
Yeah.
while still, like, having everything lifted. Like, nothing should relax. Like, you should be as
Mhm.
upright, glutes should be lifted, everything should be as firm and upright as possible as you're walking to the back. And sometimes it's so common that you see things drop
I
when they walk
know.
to the back, and that's when they lose points because the judges are like, oh, there she goes. That's not going to be in your favor.
No. Glutes lifted all the time.
Yeah, glutes and chest, like always. I always say, like, kind of chest to the ceiling and
You
make
want
sure you're
someone
standing
like
really tall.
someone's got like
Yeah,
a string and they're pulling you up like that.
yeah, yeah. Because I think it's really easy, especially in like side poses and stuff, to kind of hunch over to try and because they're arching their back so much to get the glutes out that they tend to kind of roll forward. But you also need to be upright as well. Like, that's why it's hard because you're contorting yourself in so many ways.
Yeah. You're doing the opposite a lot of the time as well, which
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Hmm.
hard. But one thing I would recommend is just to stretch as well.
Yeah.
Make sure,
Hmm.
especially like if you are posing a lot, like just make sure you're stretching your back out, your hamstrings, because you will get tight and it is painful.
Yeah.
If
And
you're doing
like,
it right,
even
if you're
like,
doing it right, it should be painful.
yeah. And like, there is kind of used to mobility work and trying to like get into those positions because a lot of us, especially in off season, we're not the most nimble. I'm not the most flexible in off season. So to maintain the ability to pose correctly, like you need to have some sort of mobility there. So working on that is very useful. Even not even if you just have like mobility workouts, but if you just practice the poses and then just hold them for as long as you can and make sure that you're doing it properly to try and help your body to adjust to being in that position.
Yeah, definitely.
My biggest mistake when I started competing is learning from YouTube, which I do not recommend, because I was
Yeah.
looking at like random like American YouTube about how to pose, and obviously like that's not necessarily the same federation. And I was doing that, that old Ashley Kay pose. You do it and you do it really well, but I wasn't doing it properly, and I actually ended up doing it for my first season, and I liked it. But don't learn how to pose from people on YouTube because they don't know what federation you're doing. Like it could have been from 5 years ago and everything could have completely
Yeah.
changed trend. So you don't know. So just please book in with a posing coach. And like there are so many good ones. Obviously you've been booking with Kerry, like that will point you in the right direction, that have experience of the federations that you're doing. I think that's the really good thing about you is that you've tried pretty much all the federations, so you know exactly what all of them are looking for because it can be
And they're
different.
all looking for, not looking for something different, but like if you look at like the criteria, there are little things that are
Hmm.
different.
Hmm.
So even from like your back leg can be straight, your back leg can be bent like that. I mean, I think I've only obviously been competing 2 years, but since I had my first season, it's even changed since then, like two
Hmm.
years ago. Um, so yeah, it's definitely researching the criteria for sure
So in
because
like the main
you will
federations,
get
like
pulled
what are,
up on
sorry.
you will get picked up
Um,
and pulled up on it.
Yeah, yeah, especially for like things like FitX. If you have a teapot arm, they will shout at you. They'll be like, put that down.
Hmm.
So, what are the main things to look out for then across like the main federations and like in terms of the differences or what you think the judges do or don't want to see?
I think we'll go with like the main ones like FitX, PCA,
Yeah,
and like NFM. They're roughly sort of like the same, I would say.
hmm,
Um, FitX don't like the the two bros like front pose as a side pose. I did
yeah,
at the expo I did see a girl get pulled up on that.
yeah,
She was told to straighten her like front leg. Um, and then obviously two bros is totally different. Like posing, you've obviously
hmm,
got your front and your back rather than like your sides. So
yeah. And obviously with two bros, like there's no overly done lat flare. Like they say that the lat should be open but not flared, so you're not having your arms out. You're having them kind of placed on your quads,
yeah,
which is different because the all of pretty much all of the rest of them want like a proper
yeah.
lat spread. But two bros don't go for that, obviously.
No. It's almost like two bros want you to pose like more natural and softer, although it doesn't feel
Yeah,
like it.
it needs to look effortless, even though
Yeah.
it's a lot of effort.
But the others almost want to see you posing hard. So
Yeah, with I think PCA in particular is the most, I would say, flexed. I think with NFM you probably could get away with not being so
yeah,
hard on your poses. There's similar poses, but it's not to the same degree. I don't think they look for that level of muscularity in a bikini girl that PCA does.
yeah,
So if you are more muscular, you can probably pose a bit more relaxed.
yeah,
But then again, this is going to depend on the competitor because if they're overly muscular, you might tell them to relax a bit. But if they're not so muscular, you might tell them, okay, you need to flex the crap out of this
yeah,
to show off your musculature. So it is
yeah.
going to depend, and also
And
how
like
lean you are and stuff.
little things like in like two bros, they don't obviously want to see like too much quad. So it's like
Yeah.
turning your leg like to a certain angle so you don't see so much if you have got that. It's about working
Mm,
with or against what you have and haven't got. So it's all an
yeah.
illusion
And it's
at the
all
end of the day.
Yeah, and it's all about balance in bikini at the end of the day, isn't it? You should be like top to bottom, left to
Yeah.
right, all balanced. Whereas obviously with wellness, that's imbalanced, like towards the
Yeah.
lower body. Whereas like if you have big quads that are over dominant, you need to pose to make them look smaller so it fits the rest of your frame. So it's not about who's the biggest in bikini, just who's the most balanced, who's the
Yeah.
most aesthetic, and who's symmetrical, top to bottom, left to right. And as you said, it's all about creating that illusion.
Mhm. Yeah. Bikini's a
Yeah, I love
whirlwind.
it. I love it. So it's just so interesting. There's just so much
It is.
intricacy involved in it. Like it's not just how muscular you are or how lean you are. That's the foundation, and then
Yeah.
everything else is on top of that, which also contributes to the whole judging and everything.
And that's why like I love this part of it, like the posing and the hair and the makeup, because it
Yeah.
is about the whole look.
Mhm.
So
So moving into the hair and the makeup then. So what
Mhm.
got you into doing that? Like where did you develop your expertise for that?
So as soon as I left school, I went to college. I done 2 years like beauty therapy, and then straight from there I done an apprenticeship in my cousin's salon. Done 3 years at college, and then I spent the next like 10 years in the same salon, um, doing hairdressing. So
That's mental. I feel like you're a completely different person now to then. It
I
feels like there was two
know.
Kerrys.
I feel like there's about 10.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, and then I thought, I think I've had my time with this. I think I want a change of career. Um, and then that's where I like went back to college, done an access course to get me into uni. Because I always felt like I wanted to like do something like in like the medical industry. Um, and that's when I went to university to train to become a paramedic. Um, and got to like nearly finishing my second year. Then I was like, the job changed a lot, and I was a bit like, I don't think this is the direction that I want to go into. And I think that's when I started delving into like the posing and doing a little bit more of that side. And that's when I kind of was a bit like, no, I think this is where I'm meant to be.
Hmm.
um I just really enjoy helping people. And I feel like I just like whatever I do, I need to be helping people, whether that be in a hospital, posing, doing hair, doing makeup. So,
Yeah. I think I talked about that in my Physique Collective interview podcast with Joppo, and he was like, what's your reason for doing all this? And I said the same. I was like, I just really want to help others and leave them better off. Like, we're both in the healthcare industry, so I work in clinical trials. Obviously, you're a nursing assistant. So we both, that's our primary role in our main career, is to help people, but also in terms of our coaching, helping people out in terms of my education, your posing, everything. You just want to make people a little bit better off for knowing
yeah.
you. And whether that's through, the healthcare system, or whether that's through like directly impacting their lives with bodybuilding and competing. I just think it's such a rewarding feeling,
Yeah,
and I love it. It's just so satisfying to feel like that.
it is. Just really enjoy taking care of people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You were such a mum. You're so maternal. I love it. But like, I think many of us in our little group are quite maternal. I think like Jasmine is quite maternal. Like, she thinks of me as her little sister, even though there's like a month in between us in birthdays. I think we all tend to look after each other like that, which is why I think we're all so close and such good
Yeah,
friends, because we all
yeah,
like that. And like, I speak to that, my therapist James Elliott. Like, I said to him the other day, like, I think I've discovered my purpose in friendships is that I love being the supporter, and I love being there for someone. So whether they're doing their show, whether they're going through difficult situations, anything like that, like, I want to be that person that they come to and that they can trust and kind of lean on. But at the same time, like, recently I got to a position where I was doing that so much because I loved it so much that I was like depleting my own battery, and I wasn't kind of looking after myself. So that's when I realized, okay, there needs to be a balance. Yes, I can go to these shows, and yes, I can help everyone, and yes, I can do all these things. I love it. But then I need some recharge time, because you can't pour from an empty cup. I think that's really
yeah,
important, because I think we're both guilty of that,
yeah.
is
I was just an
pouring from our own
example.
cup until it's depleted, and then you're like, shit, I have nothing left to give, and I have
Mhm.
nothing for myself. So yeah, no, it's great to be able to help others, but I think it's important as well to look after your own head and your
Yeah,
own mental well-being. I think that is the key
yeah,
there as well.
yeah. I think that's just it's learning how to do that though, isn't it? Sometimes
Yeah,
when you're so
absolutely.
used to looking after other people.
Yeah. Especially with you, like, you're so busy, like, you've so much going on that it can be hard. Like, your job is quite hectic.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell people a little bit about what you do kind of as a main job?
So yeah, my main job is being a nursing assistant, really. I started off doing it obviously like while I was at college and at uni. Um, so yeah, I was doing that alongside like my degree, and then obviously finished my degree. So I kind of now just do that um as much as I can really. But yeah, it's like it's hard. It is really
Yeah,
hard.
it seems very hard.
Yeah,
Working for
like
the NHS is never going to be easy, is it?
no, it's definitely not all it's cracked up to be. But it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be really stressful. It's long days. Like trying to get your training in as well. Like I'm leaving the house at 6:30 doing a 12.5 hour shift, then going to train after. I'm not home
Oh
till
my
like
God.
9.
Oh
So,
dear. Yeah.
and then, yep, roll on the next day.
Oh, I know. Get up and do the whole thing again.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day. Yeah,
But
that's what,
you just
yeah,
get on with it.
because that's what I did for my second prep. I was working in a children's hospital, where I was working in clinical trials, and I had to get up at like 5, go and do my cardio, commute an hour and a half to work,
Hmm.
be with kids all day long, do 20,000 steps at work, come back, train, and then go to bed. And like, honestly, I was also doing a nutrition course at the same time, and I was also learning how to drive at the same
Yeah.
time. So I was like, this is fine, I could do all of this. And I was on prep, and it was honestly horrific. Like, I don't know how I did it, because this time I prepped and I worked from home the whole time. And yes, there are downsides to work from home, because it's harder to get your expenditure in and you're
Yeah.
fecking hungry all the time. But at least I'm my own boss. I can, do my own work when I want to. I can nip out to the shop when I want to and things like that. And I don't feel so stressed for time. I don't have to come home and then meal prep everything at
Hmm.
9 p.m. for the next day, which I completely empathize, because it's rough. It's really rough.
Yeah. It's just about being organized and being prepared though, I suppose. And you just get on with it. I like
Yeah.
there's no other option.
That's the
So
thing, like, when you have to do it, you just do it. When people are like, how do you do it? You're like, I don't know. Like, I have no other choice. Like, I have to.
yeah.
Like,
Obviously, like ultimately the end goal is to just do posing, hair and makeup and
yeah,
stuff full
yeah,
time. But there is a part of me that is a bit like, oh, I think I would maybe miss like that
yeah, yeah,
contact and like that physical, like looking after someone.
yeah, yeah,
So I feel like it's something I probably will always like have a little bit there
yeah.
because I think I would miss it.
Yeah, I find
Whether
that really hard,
whether that
because
be doing it in a different way, I'm not sure.
yeah, because I'm obviously like the only one in the physique collective that has a full-time job. And people always ask me, like, are you going to go full-time with coaching? But like, I just feel like, yes, like I love contributing to the greater good. And like, even at Fit Expo last weekend, I met
Mhm.
someone who a drug I developed is literally, saving his life now, which is incredible.
Oh,
So having that feeling is
cool.
amazing. But also just keeping in touch with reality, because I think as bodybuilders, we tend to live in our own little bubble. We're in a vacuum where it's not real. So I like keeping in touch with normal people who don't eat, sleep, and breathe the gym, who eat normal food, who go out at the weekend. Like, I want to keep sight of that, because I don't
Yeah,
want to close myself off. And like, as if I want to find a partner or something like that, I don't necessarily want them to be all consumed bodybuilding either. I just want, a nice life. And obviously, I'm not
yeah,
going to be bodybuilding forever. I want to be a normal human at some point. So I think it's important to kind of keep touch with reality and with normal people who do normal things.
definitely. Like bodybuilding, like is my world, and I love it, but it's not completely who I am.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's like a pillar of your identity, but it's not like the whole foundation. I think that's really important. I think that's something I went through like post show, is because throughout the whole prep, I let bodybuilding and prep be my identity. That when it was gone, I had nothing, and I was like, oh my God. So it's like developing all those little pillars of your life, so that if one of them goes down, you have the rest of them that stay
yeah,
upright and don't all come knocking down. Because I think that's the problem when people get to post show, or they lose sight of themselves, they stop bodybuilding and then they lose their identity. I think it's important to maintain that.
100%, definitely.
Yeah. So back onto what we were talking about. I told you we were going to go on loads of tangents, but no, that was really good. So makeup. So I know so many people, because I started putting out kind of some information on
Mm.
makeup, because I used to be obsessed with makeup when I was younger. I had a YouTube channel, I had a blog, I did
Oh,
like
goodness.
I did like makeup hauls and like my makeup collection, and I was literally obsessed with the makeup gurus and everything. So I learned a lot about makeup back then. So I'm very confident in doing my own makeup. I had my own makeup. I had my makeup done for my very first show, and it was so awful that I had to take it off and put it on back on again. And
No.
obviously that was very stressful for my first show. So, but I think there are a lot of people out there that are not confident to do their own makeup. So what would you say in terms of makeup? Like, starting from the beginning, like, do you think you should put the tan, like the base coat tan, on your face before you start the makeup, or should you start with
Um,
bare?
so if you're doing your own, I would literally use the mitt at the end of the tan and just literally go over my
Yeah,
face.
yeah,
And if you're having it done, I would just ask for like a light spritz over your face.
yeah,
Um, but it doesn't matter if you don't. as well, because the foundation is going to blend into like your body tan anyway. So,
Yeah.
but I think it's nice to have a bit of color on your face
Yeah.
to start with.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than a ghost face,
Yeah.
though. And that's what I always tell people is like, make sure that your foundation and whatever face products you use don't have SPF in them, because
Yeah.
there is an ingredient called titanium dioxide, and when the camera goes off, the flash photography creates like this ghost flashback on your face, so all your photos you'll look like you have a ghost face, and or it looks like you don't have a nose, like it looks ridiculous, so just make sure you avoid that.
You don't want your like foundation in your face color to completely match your body tan.
Yeah.
Like you want it to almost be like a shade lighter.
Yeah,
Um,
because you'd
but
look a bit weird if you had like body color on your face.
yeah. But yeah, just no ghost face.
No ghost face. And then what about the common idea of like, should you match your eye color, like your eyeshadow color to your bikini? Would you ever go with that?
I think it's a bit person dependent really, and I think again it goes with like the thing of like everything needs to like flow and like match in, but again like if that color doesn't match your eyes,
Yeah.
then no.
Yeah.
I think everything is quite individual and person
Yeah.
dependent.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of people like ask me for certain looks, and I've kind of had to be a bit like,
No.
quite right. I think this would look better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. And also, it's like the person's personality as well. And like, do they wear makeup all the time? Because if someone never wears makeup and then you give them like bright pink eyeshadow,
Yeah,
it's they're not going to be comfortable. So if they're
yeah,
used to doing full faces on nights out and stuff, you could probably be a bit more creative. But it is so important that they're confident on stage and how they look. I think that's the main thing. Because the judges aren't necessarily going to judge your makeup individually.
no,
But if it affects your confidence and therefore you're not, displaying yourself correctly, then that could be judged. So it's kind of a knock-on effect. For me, because I like having like a stronger lip, because I don't have fake lips, unfortunately. I
yeah,
I I feel like everyone I know, except for you, everyone I know has fake lips. So I'm like so tempted, but I haven't done it yet. So I feel if I wear nude, I think the light kind of washes out my lips a bit. So I wear a strong lip, and because of that, I kind of usually go for browns and golds and peaches on my eyes because I don't want
I'm
to have
exactly the
like
same.
100% of everything.
Yeah, if you're gonna go like, don't do both. That's what I would
No,
say.
pick one that you want to feature properly, and then the other one
I
nude.
just
But then
go
even with the nude lips, just make sure it's not like skin color nude. Like it should be like a darker nude, I would say, just so the light doesn't wash it out.
yeah. You don't want to be the same color as like your face either.
No, did you ever do the foundation lips when you were younger? Oh my
Yeah.
God, I literally get my foundation brush, rub it all over my lips, and be good to go.
Yeah. How makeup has changed.
Like the stuff, I should show you pictures of when I was like 18, because I would literally have black eyeliner, black eyeshadow, foundation lips, like no eyebrows, like it just looked off,
Yeah.
and I had like really dark hair. It was terrible. So yeah, thankfully things have changed since then. It's a
Yeah.
bit more
Makeup's
natural.
moved on for the better.
Oh God, it's awful. But yeah,
But
and then it,
definitely like less is more, I think,
yeah.
sometimes.
Less is more. I think less is more in terms of, the eyes and the lips and stuff like that. But I think sometimes with the face makeup, you might need to put on a little bit more than normal, because
Yeah.
obviously the stage lighting is very hot. I was
Mhm.
sweating like mad at NFM. I don't know about you, but it was so hot. So just make sure you have enough on, because you might sweat some of it off, because they work you hard, and when the stage lights are coming down on you, you can be very sweaty. It's not
Yeah.
pleasant.
Like, I wouldn't like, and on everyday makeup, I wouldn't necessarily apply like liquid and then powder.
Hmm.
But like on show day, you want like that liquid bronzer and then you want that powder bronzer.
Yeah,
It's gonna hold better, and it's
yeah.
gonna just look more smoother and better. So
Yeah, I think like when it comes to things lasting, like you said, it's kind of like layering, isn't it?
yeah,
So you have,
definitely.
you have your moisturizer, primer, foundation, concealer, powder.
Yeah,
You could do like a contour stick before setting up a bronzer. Same with the highlighter, things like that. So it's all about layers.
yeah,
And then like using a good setting spray, usually I recommend as well, just to keep things in place.
definitely. Yeah. And like it's about using the right powder as well, because again, like
Hmm.
what you said with like foundation, you don't want like a powder that's going to like be like get that flashback as well. So
Yeah.
it's about using the right powder.
Yeah, I would say like definitely check the ingredients on your face products just to make sure that
Yeah.
you're not going to get the flashback because it is not fun. What I did when I was doing my own makeup was I asked Georgia Rose, who does her own makeup, kind of what products do you use, and I just bought them because then I knew that she was able to do it. But then obviously there are certain people that just can't do their own makeup, and then you should definitely enlist someone who's
Yeah.
going to help you properly
Yeah.
because I'd rather not be worried about it than try and do it on your own for the first time and it just doesn't go well. But
Like
that's
don't
definitely
be
something you should. Sorry.
don't be frightened of like actually messaging somebody
Yeah, yeah,
like, can you recommend this? I'm looking at doing my own makeup because
yeah.
nobody's gonna mind.
No. And even
So
like I know Georgia and Chantel, they do makeup lessons, which you should definitely
yeah,
look into doing because I love
yeah,
teaching people how to
I
do
would love
makeup.
to do that.
Yeah, it is really fun.
I've got a
Uh,
few things in the pipeline.
ooh,
So
very exciting. Can you tell any of them to us, or are they all
so
secret?
yeah, like eventually I would love to do like lessons and things in
Yeah.
makeup. But I am looking at like putting together like packages as well.
Ooh.
Because it's stressful, isn't it? The whole
Yeah.
like we have a lot, like not saying that guys don't, but they do get it a lot easier.
They
We
definitely get
have
a lot easier. Even their
we
trunks
have
cost like 20 quid and we have to pay like 300 for a bikini.
yeah. So I think if you can go to one person for quite a few things, it would save an awful lot of stress.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just putting it out there, but I don't think there's really anyone offering it.
No, definitely not.
Like posing, hair, makeup, like nails, waxing. I can do all of it.
And is like a little studio potentially on the cards eventually in the years to come? Imagine if you
Maybe
could
if
do
I
that.
actually decide like I'm gonna settle somewhere.
But imagine if you had like a Meraki studio that had like a posing studio, but also had the beauty therapy
Yeah,
area. That'd be class.
definitely the dream. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you could even like if you could do like tanning there if you trained in on that, or like nails. Like you could literally be a
Yeah.
one-stop shop for everything a competitor needs to be like show day ready.
Yeah. Yeah. That
That'd be
would be
so
really
cool.
cool.
Imagine. Wow, I definitely wanted to I want to get one in on this project now. I think that'd be really fun. I can be your helper.
You're hired.
So then, yeah, thank you. So moving on to hair then. I know hair can be a difficult one because I feel like there are a lot of myths about hair. Um, so firstly, in terms of hair, like does it matter if you go straight or curly or wavy?
Definitely not.
So how
I
should you
think
decide?
one, I think you need to be comfortable in how you're wearing it. Um, and two, it needs to suit your hair as well. Like some
Mhm.
people could curl their hair and then half an hour later it could be straight. So what's the point? Like, yeah. So, but
Yeah,
I think the number one thing is to be comfortable. If you never
yeah,
wear your hair curly and then you wear it curly on show day, you're probably not going to be very comfortable and it's not
yeah,
really going to be you. So,
yeah,
again, it comes down
yeah.
to the whole personality thing and showing off you. So,
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know.
personality and like what stresses you the least as well. Like if you, as you said, if you curl your hair and then it drops and falls out and you're freaking out about recurling it
Yeah,
before just before you get on stage, like that's not going to do any benefit to your stress levels and keeping you chill on
no.
show days. So maybe it's better to have it straight or even to have like a really loose, wave at the end or something so that if it does fall a little bit, it's not the end of the world. Whereas
Yeah,
if you're trying to have like tighter curls and they all fall out, then it's not going to be good for your
yeah,
stress levels.
yeah. Just because there's like, it's going back to the whole, just because you saw 10 girls the previous week, or like everyone at the Olympia was wearing their hair curly, I must wear my hair curly. No, like just
Yeah.
wear it how you want to wear it.
Yeah. And then I think it is probably more important with two rows because with PCA and other federations, really, you don't ever see the full head of hair because your
No,
front pose, it's at your back. When you do transitions, you move it. And then when you're in a back pose, you move it. So you're never really showing off your full head of hair. Whereas in two rows, obviously, in their back pose, your hair must remain on your back because they
yeah,
don't want to see any sort of lat development or anything like that. So that's kind of where it comes into play. Now, this is obviously going to depend on the person. Like, personally, I find like if you have a hair that is like pin straight with no kinks or anything. I think that looks amazing on a back pose. But equally, if you can't get that, because that is very difficult, like a nice loose wave or something like that. But as long as it doesn't like overwhelm your back.
yeah, yeah. And again, it comes down to like being the right length,
Yeah.
being healthy. Like it's all tiny little things like that. That like are gonna make such a difference. Like you don't want to see like straggly hair. Um, and again, like it comes down to like if you're wearing extensions, they need to be good extensions.
Hmm.
Even like your hair color and things like that. Like it is really important.
So what length would you suggest then for someone who's going for two rows? Because obviously you don't want it to completely like hide your glutes,
Yeah.
so it
So
can't be super long.
yeah, you want it above like your like obviously your bottoms. Um, but I would say like mid kind of like back I think is quite nice. But again, it
Yeah.
depends on like your shape
Yeah.
because where your hair falls can obviously like not like well again it comes to like the whole illusion thing.
Yeah.
So
I think sometimes if you cut it like just at the smallest part of your waist, it can kind of like emphasize your
yeah,
waist a little bit. But
yeah,
obviously, like if you don't have that tiny waist, it might end up making it look thicker. So it
yeah,
kind of depends on, yeah, as you said, your shape and how small your waist is. If your waist is
yeah.
tiny, you can probably get away with most things, to be honest.
Mhm.
But what we see and what I see like Adam Bonilla at like Team Elite Physique say, like when your hair is like curtaining your glutes, it loses the shape of them, it loses the roundness of them, and it just really like you lose the full illusion of the big
Yeah.
round glutes. So they should stay away, like they should not touch your bikini bottoms at all,
Mhm.
and ideally
So,
they should be even a bit further up than that because
yeah,
you're just going to lose the whole shape.
yeah.
And
Unfortunately,
practice, like that's what I did
yes,
when I went
practice.
to my hairdresser. I was getting her to cut my hair, and then I would literally stand there and do my full back pose in front of her and be like, "Tell me exactly where it ends," and she was laughing, but I was like, "I need to do it because I need to know where it's ending."
Yeah, definitely. But and also like practice with your hair straight, with your hair curly to see how long it lasts.
Yeah,
Um, and to see how like you feel as well because like you're moving your hair, you're touching it and yeah, just practice everything.
also practice posing with your hair extensions if they are clip-ins,
Yeah.
because there's nothing worse than a rogue extension that goes flying off.
Listen.
Because I had like a ring on one side, so I was like, "Oh crap! I need to make sure I don't like grab the extension and pull it out."
Yeah.
Because that's not a good look on show day, I
No.
don't
And
think.
like with your jewelry in as well, practice with your
Yeah,
jewelry.
yeah, I was doing that a lot in my first season, especially is like just practicing with like all the bits on, because I had like clip-in hair extensions. I had like bigger jewelry. I was wearing like one of the big cocktail rings that Jasmine used to sell, which I wish she would sell again because it was fab.
Mhm.
So it was like going to or like just putting that on the other finger where you don't move your hair and stuff, and just thinking
Yeah.
about that. But obviously you don't need. Some people do. This is actually a question for you. So with two bros and the hair movement, so I know people, they do their front pose, they transition, they either move their hair with their hand or they do the creepy
Yeah.
sultry kind of thing with the look and the eyes, and they kind of like shove their hair to the back with their head. I think that looks a bit like, I think it's very hard to make that look good without making it look a bit like
Agreed.
overly sultry. Because then like I get that they want to add a bit of extra flair to the posing routine, but then when you go to the back, you have to move it back anyway. So I think it just adds too many extra steps, and I feel like you should be moving just enough to get everything done. So when you're adding all these extra movements, I think it can be a bit distracting.
Yeah. I definitely agree. It's a bit faffy, I think. If you can do
Yeah,
it really smoothly without like too much like moving
yeah,
around, then go for it. But again, I think that's the whole, oh, I've seen someone do that. I've
yeah,
seen a few
yeah,
people do, I'm gonna do that. But
yeah,
again, it doesn't suit everybody. I've
yeah.
tried it once, never tried it ever again.
I don't think I even tried it. I was like, I know that's not going to work on me. I'm not
Yeah,
sexy enough for that. Like, it's just, I'll just end up like whacking myself in the face with my hair.
it wasn't for me. And again, like this is like where your posing changes. Like when I first started posing, I would do the whole like, so I haven't got long hair now. Like, I would do
Yeah,
like that,
the
but
flick
I
it.
don't do
Yeah,
that
yeah.
like because
Yeah, I usually flick it just to kind of, I think sometimes I just want it neatly across my back. I
yeah,
think that's the main reason I do it, because you don't want it really covering your rear delts that much, because you want to be able to show them off. So I just kind of do that. But then there are some over exaggeration ones where they flick it and then they
yeah,
flamboyantly fling their hands out. So when I first started going to Phoebe, she was like, "You need to tone that down. You just need like a little bit is
yeah.
enough."
Because again,
But it
again,
is
it
so
was
easy to look at what.
hair dependent. Like some
Yeah,
people's hair would need like maybe like a little adjustment, whereas some
yeah,
people's wouldn't. So, but yeah, I think less movement sometimes is better with
yeah,
well, like posing and hair and all that. I like will teach my clients like you need to pretend you're in a little box.
Yeah.
You don't want to move like out of
Yeah.
that box.
And like you want like as ideally as minimal footwork as possible. Like you
Yeah.
really don't want your feet to be moving more than they have to.
No,
Which makes it
definitely.
easier when you think about posing because there isn't many steps to do it, but then it's almost like trying to make it look really streamlined and
Yeah.
seamless while thinking about okay, I have to move as little as possible.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's I think it'd be hard. Like I know you don't have to as a pro like walk to the back and the front, but I felt like if I had to do that, I would just hate it. Like I know Ashley Kay doesn't do it. She literally just like does her little routine and leaves. She doesn't go back to
Mhm.
front because I think that is where a lot of people like lose marks potentially from like dropping their glutes or not lifting their chest or not being in bikini mode.
And that's her doing what she wants and what's best for her physique as well. So she's not.
And it seems to be working for her. So she's the most winning IFBB pro ever.
Yeah.
That's what I love is when people like her break the mold and she's like, well, I don't want to walk to the back and there's no stipulation saying I have to, so I don't do it. And,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, she's not afraid to not follow the trend, which you shouldn't be either if it doesn't suit you. If it's not in the mandatory criteria and you don't like it, doesn't suit you, don't do it. Like,
Yeah.
it's as simple as that, really.
Definitely.
But at the same time, I do like experimenting sometimes. Like in my check-ins once a week, sometimes I'll throw in an extra something and I'll watch it back. Be like, oh, did that work? And
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes like, oh, I like that. Like
Yeah.
I like when it's done well. I do like the back pose to the front pose of two bros where they have the little hands on hip. I
Yes.
think that looks kind of cute. But it depends
Yeah.
on if you're overly latty. It will end up looking like a PCA pose, and they don't want that. So it has to be really like understated. You almost can't bring yourself forward at all. You kind of just have to hang there because you don't want it to look like a big PCA pose, Yeah.
Like I
You have to have it
can't.
really kind of slumped. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't do it. You're too latty as well.
Well, I just have to like have my hands like down rather than
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
So, but yeah, it's good to
Uh,
have a little play around, and like that's what you should be doing, like with your posing coach as
mhm,
well. So,
mhm.
having a play around with loads of different transitions and things.
Yeah, no, it is fun. Um, but the last thing I wanted to ask about the hair, you said the color thing.
Mm.
What would you recommend in terms of color, and what makes you kind of decide on what color?
Federation definitely, I
Hmm.
think, can depend. Again, like I know we're always like comparing like two bros to every other federation, but it is very much that. Like two bros
Yeah.
like a much more of a natural look. Um,
Hmm.
and where like the others you can pretty much have like what you want
Have
really.
pink short hair,
Yeah, like
have an undercut.
I think again some like would like that more than others. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely two bros like more natural. Like you don't really see anybody with bright hair on like a two
No.
bros stage. So you
Or
want like
like super short hair, like a pixie cut or anything. They don't really
no,
go for that.
no, you just unfortunately you just don't. It shouldn't be taken into consideration, but it is. It's just how it
Yeah.
is. But yeah, much more
Yeah, I
natural
think he's
two bros, going with like your natural features and things like that. And then the rest of them you can kind of have a little bit of a play around. Like you see a lot of like bikini girls now in like PCA and like NFM and all them federations like with their hair up. You never used to see that. Which is really cool.
yeah, like Emily Wilkinson at FitX last weekend had her hair up on a PCA and she's getting overalls left, right, and centre. So, you
Yeah,
used to think it's just figure girls that can have their hair up, but she was having her hair up and it looked great.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's nice because again, it's like showing off your personality. So.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it makes such a difference. And I think the main thing to consider, I think they speak about a lot with two bros or IFBB especially, is kind of you don't want your hair to blend in with your tan because then you kind of don't look like anything is standing out. So either
Yeah,
have like a blonde or a brunette, but something in the middle, potentially dye it darker or lighter just to make sure it stands out because otherwise you kind of all look one color. I think
yeah.
they're quite adamant about that. I don't really hear that feedback from anyone else or any other feds,
No,
but it seems that that is the case with that.
yeah, but it's going like the right way with it to like match your skin tone and things as
Yeah.
well. Like going like if you're blonde, like being warmer or cooler, or and also like dark being warmer or cooler, needs to sort of like match your skin tone.
Yeah, like I remember for PCA Mercia that I did last year, I just got my new extensions in and my hair was like blonder than blonde. And I
Mhm.
knew probably on two brows it would look a bit ridiculous. And also it was far too long for two brows. But I was like, I am not cutting these extensions. When the
Yeah.
hairdresser was like, how short do you want them? I was like, literally skim them just to make sure they're like straight. But then that's it. So I literally had the longest, blondest hair you could imagine. And I loved it. I just wished I could do that for two brows, but I know they wouldn't like it. But it just looks so, just again, because I was wearing a red bikini and bright red lipstick and obviously the tan, it was like my favorite look I've ever had. I just absolutely loved it.
Oh. And that like that alone like could decide on which federation you like
Yeah.
pursue as well. So it's
Yeah,
about
I
like
definitely think I would
are you
I
gonna
would do
sacrifice
like
like to
yeah.
just compete with two bros or
Yeah.
no?
I think next season I'll do both. I think I'll do two bros and PCA mainly. I'm not sure about the other ones, but I loved the whole PCA experience and like obviously like I just want to get that win. I feel like I'm so close because like obviously the first time I did PCA I did no first call outs, no placing. Then this time I got third in the regional and then sixth in the finals. So I'm like I can get there. So I
Yeah,
just want to work a bit harder and hopefully get my win. I
yeah.
don't know if I'll get a sword like Jasmine, but I will try. We'll see how it
Good
goes.
team.
I know, yeah. It's like watching everyone else compete. It's getting me so like I'm sure you're the same. You're like, oh, I wish I was up there again. But you're like, nope,
Do
I
you
need to gain
know
muscle.
what?
I need to get better.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like dealing with it way better than what I thought. I thought I would really, really struggle. Um,
Hmm.
but I think because I've now got more involved in like the pose and hair and makeup, it's kind of like keeping me involved. Um, so yeah, I feel okay about it.
I'm the
I
same.
probably
Like when I started at the year, I was like, yeah, at the start of the year, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get through this year without competing? Like I was so, like I competed all of
yeah,
last year. But as you said, because I'm into like coaching people, I have a few people going in prep this year. I have a few photo shoot clients. I'm going to shows. I'm being there for everyone else. I do feel like I'm quite involved,
yeah,
which definitely makes a difference. I would say like if you are in off season, like don't exclude yourself from events. Like still turn up, go to events, go to seminars, go to
yeah,
expos. Like even seeing you and everyone else at the expo last weekend was really fun. Seeing Tony compete, you kind of live vicariously through your friends, and you just are their big supporters. And you know when your time comes around, they'll do the same for you. So, um, I'm quite glad I'm not competing this year, just with the new job and everything going on. So, hopefully, we'll be competing together next year. Will be
yeah.
fun. Fingers
I think
crossed.
like I look at it like I think if I was competing this year, I probably wouldn't have launched and like launched
Yeah,
this business. Yeah, I wouldn't have had time to perhaps
yeah,
do the other things that yeah, I found that I actually really love doing. So
yeah. Exactly. I think it does give you that extra headspace to kind of promote businesses or to move up in your job or to like develop relationships and friendships and everything like that. I think that makes such. I think like even us, we have more time for each other because we're not on prep. Because I think like we did talk a little bit during prep, but now that we aren't and we have more brain capacity, we can be there for each other. We can kind of invest in our friendships a bit more, which is really nice and I think is really important as well.
next time we'll just be screwing each other's head back on in prep.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, every day, because that's what I do for Jasmine at the moment. So I'll do it for you as well. Don't worry. So yeah, so Kerry, thank you so much for joining me. It's been so nice to have you on. We've had a great
Thank
conversation.
you.
Do you want to tell people where they can find you, both in terms of your own Instagram and your business Instagram?
Yeah, so my own Instagram is Kerry underscore Bullock 90. And then my business is Meraki underscore by Kerry.
And if anyone wants to kind of apply for posing or book makeup or hair, do they just DM the page? Is that how they do it?
Yeah, yeah,
Perfect.
just
So yeah,
yeah, message me directly.
yeah.
Even if it's
So
just a question, like
yeah,
think
so exactly, like Kerry is so good and she's so knowledgeable. So if you even have a question about hair or makeup, if you'd love a bit of help about posing, anything like that, just
yeah,
send her a DM and she'd be more than happy to help because she's been super helpful to me as well. So
anywhere.
yeah, I really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you so much, Kerry. So if you guys have enjoyed this episode, make sure you take a screenshot, share it to your story, tag myself. I'm at Holly underscore physique collective, and Kerry in terms of Kerry underscore Bullock 90 and Meraki by Kerry. We'd really appreciate it. Any suggestions for topics, guests, anything in the future, my DMs are always open, so make sure you drop me a message if you have any suggestions like that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.